Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time and I've really missed you guys, but I'm back now, back with another simple and sweet tutorial. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with us how to cut and sew this beautiful trendy Bubu dress with a basket detail and fringes and appliques. So if you're interested in learning how to create something like this, keep on watching and let us get straight into this video. For this project, I made use of this white Mikado fabric. It is about 3.5 yards. I also have about half yard of this black Mikado fabric, and then I have my tassels which I'll be attaching. So for this project, I am going to be drafting on my pattern paper because I'm working with white and I don't want it to get stained easily. Alright, so from the top of my pattern paper, which is my shoulder line and starting line, I marked 12 inches. So this is how wide I want my sleeve opening to be. So if you want your sleeve opening to be smaller or bigger, you can go ahead and adjust that. The next measurement I took is the length of my dress. I'm working with a length of 60 inches and that is just what I have there. I didn't add any hemming allowance. Next, I'll impute my neck width and my neck depth. I'm using a neck width of 3 inches and a neck depth of 4 inches. And with the help of my curved ruler, I'm going to go ahead and draw in my neckline like this. So this is my neckline for the front. On this same paper, I'm going to impute my neckline for the back. So for the back neck width, I am using 1 inch and then I'll connect it to my neck width of 3 inches like so. Next, I'm going to impute my shoulder measurement divided by 2 at the very top right here. I'm working with a shoulder of 16 inches divided by 2 is 8 inches. From that point, I am going to determine how long I want my sleeve to be. So I'm using a sleeve length of about 11 inches. You can use whatever length you like. And then I'm adding 2 inches to that for hemming allowance. Next, I'll repeat the same measurement that I have here on this my sleeve opening line. So right here, I'm measuring out everything that I have, and in total, I have about 21 inches. Yours might be more or less. So I'm marking it here on this line, which is essentially the sleeve opening, and I'm going to go ahead and connect these points using a straight ruler. Next, on this same line, I'll go ahead and impute my biggest body measurement divided by 4. My biggest body measurement is my hip, which is 40 inches divided by 4. I have 10 inches. Therefore, ease allowance, I added 2.5 inches and then extra 1 inch for sewing allowance. So depending on how big or how small you want your bubu to be, you can either increase your ease allowance or reduce it. So in total, I have about 13.5 inches marked out there, and this is what I'm also marking all the way down here so that I can have a straight line when I'm connecting. So after making these marks with the help of my straight ruler, I'm going to go ahead and connect these points together like this. Next, on this my sleeve opening / sleeve hem, I'm going to come in by 4 inches, and this will help me draw in a smooth curve to meet the body of my bubu like so. So you can use your free hand or you can use the help of your curved ruler. And also, if you want to have a shoulder slant at this very top, the shoulder line, you can come down by 1 inch and slant it all the way into your neckline. But for this particular dress, I will not be adding a shoulder slant to it. And finally, I'll go ahead and cut this pattern out. Remember that we are drafting for both the front and the back, so I'll go ahead and cut out the back neckline first, and then I'll cut out the front neckline later after we have transferred this to fabric. So this is what we have after cutting this pattern out. The next thing I'm going to do is just bring my tape and measure out everything that I have here, and that is about 21 inches, and this is going to help me when I'm folding my fabric. So here I have my fabric laid out on the floor. I folded it selvage to selvage, not exactly selvage to selvage though. Remember that 21 inches that I measured out, that is what I folded my fabric by, because if I fold it selvage to selvage, I'll end up wasting a lot of fabric. So that was why I folded it. I measured that 21 inches and folded it by the 21 inches, and I can use the remaining parts to sew something else instead of just wasting it entirely. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut this out, and this is what I have. So you can see 21 inches complete. So now I'm going ahead to fold this again into two. So like I said earlier, I folded this selvage to selvage. That's, I think it's called the cross grain, right? And the reason why I did this is because I don't want a shoulder seam. So after folding it into two, you see that at the very top here I have two folded edges, and that will serve as my shoulder, and I will not be cutting it through, so I will just have a seamless look and finish right there. But if you want to have a seam, go ahead and do that. You may not even need to fold it the way I folded. You may just go ahead and fold it the normal way you'd fold. So I've gone ahead to place my pattern paper onto my fabric. I aligned the shoulder points together and also the center front stroke center back together, and I pinned it down so that it wouldn't move. And now I'm going ahead to cut this through. Remember earlier that I said that this pattern is for both the front and the back, and the way I folded this fabric is for both the front and the back. So this is me cutting out the back neckline. After cutting this out, I would cut out my front neckline on the pattern paper, and then I'll trace it using my chalk onto the fabric and then cut out the neckline for the front. So that is what I'm doing right now. I'm going to lift one part which is supposed to be for the front and then cut out the front neckline. Do not make the mistake of cutting both parts, so or else you're going to have two front necklines. So for the front neckline, I am going to mark out a slit of 4 inches. You can make yours 5, and I'm going to just go ahead and slit that open right there. So I'm going to take out my pattern paper, and this is what I have. I'm also going to go ahead and open this up, and can you see the neckline for the back and for the front? So opening this up further, this is what it looks like. This is the slit. So you have to make sure that your head is, the opening is big enough to go round your head. And right here guys, I am cutting out the facing for the neckline. So what I did was I placed a little piece of fabric underneath, and then I just traced out everything. I'm sorry that my camera decided to act up at this particular moment, but basically all I just did was cut out a little facing, and on this facing I ironed a stiff interfacing on it, and now I am going to place it on my fabric, right sides facing each other, pin it down, and then I'll take it to my sewing machine and sew it all the way around. After stitching it down, this is what I have. I went ahead to make notches on this curved part and also around the corners, and I went ahead to turn it inside out. I gave it a good press, and this is what it's looking like. This is also what it looks like behind. I used some hemming tape to secure the facing in place. You can also hand tack yours if you don't want to use a hemming tape. So now I am going to go ahead and fold this into two, that is right sides facing each other, and I'm going to go ahead and close up the sides. Before I close up the sides, I am going to mark my slit opening. This Bubu has a slit opening, so from the bottom I am going to go up by 20 inches. I think I ended up going up by 21 inches, but right here I'm marking 20 inches. At this point, use your discretion. This is dependent on how high you want your slit to be, but I feel like 21 inches is fine for me. So I'll go ahead and stitch from that mark all the way up right here, and this is what I have after stitching on both sides. So the next thing I also did was I went ahead to fold in that slit opening. I just used my iron to iron it down so that I'll have this ghetto line, and this is going to be useful later on. The next thing I did was I came down 1 inch from my slit opening, and I am rolling out a straight line like this. You can come down by 2 inches, by 3 inches. This is dependent on where you want your basket design to be. All right, so I am going to go ahead and cut this out right now. After cutting it out, this is what I have. I'm just going ahead to indicate that this is the part that will be sewing to the upper part later. It doesn't really matter because both the top and bottom are the same measurements. Now I'll grab my tape and measure out what I have here. So from this ghetto line that I have after ironing, which is basically my 1-inch seam allowance, I'm measuring what I have down to the other ghetto line, and I have about 25 inches. So this number is going to be crucial later on. So for the basket design, I have these 2 pieces of identical pattern papers laid out here. For the length of this pattern paper, I have 25 inches, which is the exact measurement we took from our Bubu dress. And for the length of the basket, I'm working with 3 inches. I added half an inch to the top and bottom for sewing allowance, making it 4 inches. And I also ruled out a line in the middle. I know it's a little bit faint, but I ruled out a line in the middle of this pattern paper, thereby separating the 4-inch pattern paper into 2 inches. All right, I hope this makes sense. So this is my black strip of fabric that I just cut out, and I'm just showing you how you can use it to create your loop. So you can just fold it in like so and make a top stitch, or you can just fold it into 2, stitch it down by half of an inch, and then turn it inside out. However, I'm going to be making use of this beautiful velvet strip. It's about ½ inch in length. I decided to use this because why not? It's beautiful and it is going to save me the hassle of creating my own loops. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this to match with my pattern paper, and we'll go ahead and start sewing. So right here, I have gone ahead to cut out my velvet strip. So I'm going to pick one of it. I'm going to make sure that the right side of this velvet strip is on top of my pattern paper like so. So I'll place it at the very edge of this my pattern paper, and I'll start by making a back stitch to secure it in place, and I'll just go ahead in the same manner and start placing the other side by side, and I'll go ahead and make a stitch. When you're stitching, make sure that all your stitches are on the middle line. I divided this pattern paper into 2 equal halves, and that is why I have a middle line. I'm sorry that my camera is not picking it up quite clearly, but make sure that all your stitches are on that middle line. Maintain that straight line. So what you just do is easy. You place the bias tape side by side and you keep stitching. So make sure that they are not overlapping, and also make sure that there are no gaps in between. You keep doing this until you get to the very end. Now when you get to the end of your pattern paper, all you have to do is secure it with a back stitch so that it doesn't come undone. Pull this out, cut out your threads, and you should have something looking like this. Now we will go into the next step, which is making the basket, and this step is super easy. All you need to do is pull one down, pull one up, pull one down, pull one up, and you sew. So let us go ahead and do this. Okay, so now I am going to pick the very first one and I'll just pull it down. All right, pick the first one down to marry each other like so, and I'll start stitching. So after stitching the first one down, I'll pull the next one up and then bring the next one down like so. So make sure that you arrange it very well, and then I'll keep stitching. Okay, pull the next one up, pull the other one down, and I'll stitch. So you can see it's pretty easy. So just keep doing that. Pull this one up and then pull the next one down, and then you stitch. And while you're doing this, make sure that you maintain the same space, okay, because it can be tricky. It may be moving depending on what you're working with, and just keep stitching this down like so until you get to the end. here I have gotten to the last piece that I have here, which is basically the end of my pattern paper, and I am going to go ahead and pull this out and cut out any excess thread that I may have. As you can see, our basket design is already forming, and what is left is to sew the other side down, and this particular step is pretty easy because all the hard work has already been done. So at this point, what you're just doing is pulling it down and stitching, pulling it down and stitching. I hope this makes sense. If you're confused, just look at what I'm doing and you'd understand it. So we're going to just do this until we get to the very end. And right here, guys, I have gotten to the other end, and this is our basket design. Can you see how beautiful it looks? And I told you that this is super easy to do. Can you see that? This is what it looks like behind. So I'm going to grab my scissors and just cut out any of this excess tape that is sticking out right here. So I also did another one off camera for the back, so I have one for the front and one for the back. So the next step now is to attach the basket design to the Bubu gown. So this is the upper part of my Bubu gown, and I'm going to open it up like so. I'll bring my basket design and then place it right sides facing each other, and I'll go ahead and stitch it by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to place it starting from that my ghetto line. Can you see that crease line that my iron made, which is basically the 1 inch that I left for stitching allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch it, and after stitching, this is what it looks like. All right, so beautiful, I love it. So now I'm going to bring the bottom part of this my Bubu dress. Remember that part that I marked indicating that this is the part that I'll be sewing. Okay, it's not necessary though, but that is where I'm going to be placing onto the other end of this my basket design. So just like I did for the upper part, I'll go ahead and stitch it down by 1/2 inch, and I also went ahead to make a top stitch to secure the seam allowance in place. So I'll repeat the same thing for the other side, and after stitching, this is what I have. I'm going ahead to just tear out the pepper. So when you're tearing the pepper, just be very careful so that you don't end up ripping your thread. I think I'll recommend you use tiny stitches, a tiny stitch when you're making this design. All right, so after tearing everything out, this is what it looks like. Can you see how beautiful it is looking? At this point, we're almost done with this dress. All we need to do is actually hem this dress and do some finishing touches here and there. Okay, so right here I have my gown laid out on the floor, and I am taking my full length measurement. So my actual full length measurement is 60 inches, but I'm going to make it 58 inches because of the tassels that I'm going to be attaching to this. So you can make it 57 inches. All you need to do is like measure out the length of your tassel and subtract that from your full length measurement so that the tassel will not be sweeping the floor. So after doing that, I think 58 inches, I added extra 2 inches for hemming allowance, and that is just what I'm marking out there. So I'm just going to roll this out and then cut out any excesses that I may have right here. After cutting, this is what it looks like. So before I go ahead and hem this dress, I'll go ahead and secure all these raw edges with an overlocker. So take it to your weaving machine and weave it all round, and then go ahead and finish up this slit opening either by using hemming gum or by stitching it down. And then I'm also going to hem the bottom, and also go ahead and hem the sleeve opening. And after doing all that, this is what it looks like. Can you see that? Very beautiful, neat and clean. I am yet to give this a good press. So finally, I'll go ahead and attach my tassels. I think I have about 11 tassels in total. So for the hem, I'm going to use 5 on both sides, that's the front and the back, and then I'm going to use 1 on this slit opening on the neckline area. And then for the sleeves, I have this very beautiful applique that I have here. We call it trimming too, whatever. So I'm just going to position it around the sleeve opening like so, and you can go ahead and glue it down or tack it down with needle and thread. Finally, after all is said and done, this is a finished look. I'm sorry that it's looking a little bit blurry. My phone decided to fall down and my camera broke, hence why it's looking like this, but it came out beautifully as you can see. And with that being said, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. If you found this video helpful in any way at all, go ahead and give this video a like so that more people can get to see it. Subscribe to this channel if you're not yet subscribed. If you have any question, leave it in the comment section, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys so much. Bye guys.